welcome back everyone to a White Cloaks sort of review at this point. Been a while since we've had something like this to break down, so obviously the New York Comic Con teaser trailer for Season 2 has come out. I did my initial reaction to it actually. Real short video. I'll have a link up to that up at the top when you're watching this. That I think might actually be the better reaction than even this long form one. But there's a lot to go through in such a short clip. It's overall they showed us about 1 minute of Wheel of Time sort of video content in this teaser trailer. Some of it, honestly, about half of it is actually season 1 condensed together in a sort of epileptic kind of frame. So we'll go through that real quick. Probably gonna have to just pause it a couple times throughout that just to make sure we don't get a content strike or something like that. So to put the disclaimer out, this is all fair use. This is for the purpose of commentary and analysis. If you want to watch the actual original, go ahead and feel free to do so. Just have your preferred alcohol handy for the brain enema that you're gonna need. But I will say that the video that I'm showing here has been altered. So it's the original video, but I've boosted the light level so we can see a little better. And then once we get into the season 2 sort of teaser portion of it, which was originally only about 27 seconds, I've actually slowed it down to about 50% speed so that it's going to be a little bit easier to kind of pause at some of the spots and actually see. Because as has become the norm for Amazon and specifically Wheel of Time teasers, content, everything else, they love these really quick kind of disorienting cuts with you see someone's face and then it just cuts away. So in order to actually get any idea of what's happening, we're going to have to slow it down. So that'll be just a forewarning there. The epileptic seizure warning is on the screen. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first part, the episode, or the season 1 flash recap. Warning. And then all of a sudden, we're just going to see all of this. You probably recognize some of the scenes there. This looks like maybe a freeze from Winter Night or something. There's a Shatter Logoth. There's the sort of Red Sisters. Obviously, that's right before we see Logain in the cage. This is what a great pause. Serendipity, friends. This is Swan and Moraine's tryst. This is the start of that. And up, we got the Fire Swamp, also known as the Blight, if you're watching the show. And looks like a piece of Ishmael's face. Sorry, the dark one. Spoilers. Okay, now we're getting into it, so you can tell here the sound is going to be a little distorted. The colors have been boosted. This is what I'm talking about in terms of having messed with the light levels in order to just kind of get this to play and have a little better visual. So right off the bat here, we see sort of a arid landscape with several horses in the distance. Not a whole lot to go off of. It's really only worth noting here that and I guess this could be Shinar in the way that the show has depicted it. Obviously not the way that the books, which would have been, a northern clime, pines, all that kind of stuff. Snowy, I think, when we first saw it, and then it breaks into spring after the events of the Eye of the World, right? Yeah, so I'm assuming that this is probably the party on the trail of Padan Fain. So this would be the Shinarans and I guess Perrin. From what we've seen in the behind the scenes, it looks like Perrin is the only one with the Shinaran party. All right. Now we got a brief shot of Rand. Let's see if it goes any farther. Nope, not really. Nothing really there. All right, then we got the Dark One, also known as Ishmael again.
The Dark One.
Alright, so that was Moraine saying we did not defeat the Dark One, then Rand sitting here opening his eyes.
We set his strongest lieutenant free.
Alright, so that's Moraine saying we set his strongest lieutenant free. I mean, this is a really small thing. I know that the fantasy trope of like in fantasy, people talk with a British accent sort of thing. I will say though, given that Robert Jordan was actually did serve in the U.S. military, fought in Vietnam. For those who don't know, it's pretty formative on his experience. To me, I think that it's bizarre that the show is going with the British pronunciation of lieutenant. I mean, like I said, this is a real nitpick. I think probably most people don't care, and I don't necessarily care about this either. I just think that it's odd, given that Robert Jordan is from South Carolina. It's strange. That's really all I have to say. The lead-in had Ishmael walking away, and then we see this hand sort of reaching out, taking a hand that's covered in blood. I don't really know what to make of this, right? So I think if I'm putting my conspiratorial hat on, I would say that the two shots may actually have nothing to do with each other, and that potentially this is sort of a misdirect. So we see Ishmael, walking, and then the next shot we see a hand reaching for this blood-covered hand. It's hard to tell. I think that the hand that we see from the right here, this looks sort of like a man's hand. I think it might be a few shades too light to be the actor who's playing Ishmael. I could be wrong. This is something that's real quick cut, hard to really tell. And panned away. Okay, so Moraine's line here is that Ishmael, one of the Dark One's chief lieutenants, may be awaking the other Forsaken. I think this is definitely a misdirect. This to me can only be one thing, which is the Dark Friend Social, if you want to call it that. Basically, I always call it the A Man Called Bors scene. I know that like within some weird portions of the Wheel of Time fandom, there's this like real fixation on Dark Friend Social. Man, I feel like given the deep cuts that have been being made to the stories so far, I'm shocked that this is in there, and it feels a little bit like sort of a nod to a portion of the fandom. So those who may not know, there is a podcast and YouTube channel that does what they call the Dark Friend Social, which is just a bunch of people who like the show, who get on and sort of talk about how great it is. It's actually been a part of the Ask Me Anythings and things like that. The Q&As with the showrunners. That the Dark Friend Social, is it going to be in it? Are we going to see it? And it's like, yeah, we get it. Your YouTube channel does a thing called the Dark Friend Social. It's not relevant and hugely important to the story. It probably didn't deserve to be in it, but clearly we are going to see it. This is going to be bad. So I just want to throw that out there. The Man Called Bors sort of scene was creepy and disturbing, and ultimately, like, I think a pretty interesting sort of visual spectacle. It also relied heavily on the internal monologue of the character Bors. So I think this is going to be really dumbed down. Like this is going to be like a lobotomized version of the Dark Friend Social, and I think it's probably going to play really poorly on TV. Okay, a lot to kind of go through here. So one, that's clearly Uno, who's down on his knees there. The soldier is carrying what appears to be a metal baseball bat that they just sandblasted any sort of stuff off of, which is hilarious. I like that. I hadn't actually noticed that before watching it right now. The armor looks like a huge step up from last season, I guess. They don't look insectoid at all. Really, the armor doesn't look insectoid at all. I'll let Shadiversity break down the armor and things like that. I'm not really going to go too much into it. I just want to point out the little back pieces on these guys. I guess you could maybe think that that's their version of like a a kit, like a backpack or something. Man, It looks strange. In the background, we see Loyal, and we see. I'm assuming that that is Perrin. He looks a little thinner in the face than Perrin from season 1 in this shot, but it's a long shot off. Okay, so yep, there's Perrin. You see Loyal, his Pomeranian that is supposed to be a wig on his left or right shoulder there. So clearly, this is that same scene probably, and the two of them are kind of on their knees, prostrating themselves. I'm assuming that means that the High Lady that we'll see here in a minute is going to show up. They're all supposed to prostrate themselves. Again, that never happened. All right, so there's the new actor playing Matt. It looks very similar, right? He's still got the sort of Big Lebowski bathrobe on for no reason, but at least it looks slightly less ragged and ratty. All right, so that's the High Lady. I'm assuming it has to be Suroth. If it's if it's Tuon, that would be interesting. Again, trying to minimize some spoilers here, so I won't say too much, but I think this is probably Suroth, who we do meet in the Great Hunt briefly. And this seems like a really 2022 interpretation of the nails. So, like, yep, long lacquered nails, I think is what is depicted or described rather in Robert Jordan's books. This is a bizarre choice in my mind. They don't look real. I don't know. Maybe comment down below if this is how you guys interpreted the nails. I would have expected them to be, within the range of normal sort of long nails, maybe an inch or two long at the most, and then lacquered and colored. If for no other reason, then can you imagine Turok wielding a sword with those? Like, that's, I mean, completely comical, right? Like, not that we were going to get the Turok fight in any way, shape, or form similar to what we expected to see from the books, the scene that is known and loved in the fandom. But this is comical, and really, they can't possibly have that scene and have it not just be something that's memeable.
You have no conception of the power they wield.
No conception of the power they wield. Probably talking about the Forsaken or something like that. Okay, so a better shot of the armor here. I guess I could see someone saying that the helmet looks kind of like a beetle. If you were to look at it maybe straight on from the front, I could see how that could look like the top of a beetle. So you have sort of the three legs on each side, maybe some eyes like a scarab beetle or something like that. But my recollection of the books are that they're supposed to be colored feathers that sort of curl around and look like sort of antennae. They're supposed to be sort of the look of kind of mandibles and things like that. So from that perspective, again, I think that this is a miss for me in terms of the armor. I've seen some good memes on things that what people think it looks like. The pauldron has 3 eyes on it, so I guess that could be a Grom, but it doesn't look like it has sort of like a triangular kind of lizard head. Like, it's got some big fangs on it. It looks sort of feline. So that would be, more like a Lopar. I'm assuming that they're probably going to, shove all those things together and have it be an amalgam or something like that. But anyway, here's a better look at the armor. It's got some okay things. I think it still generally looks kind of cheap. Clearly, they are putting more money into the costuming and armor and stuff like that than season 1, which obviously season 1 had pretty much no armor. We saw a little bit in episode 8. We saw the Flava Flav clock sort of armor on the King of Gildan. And then we saw the White Cloaks with their absolute silly single arm pauldron thing. But yeah, this is, I guess, an improvement. Oh, that's right. The cold open of episode 7 had the weird, like, no armor across the entire midsection so that they could be conveniently stabbed by our pregnant, not Aiel. But anyway, here we go. I don't have really any thoughts other than to say that this could be a dream for all we know. It's hard to tell too much what this is, so we'll just move on. All right, so Lan, shirtless. He's obviously the men are typically subjected to the gaze in this show. Okay, so we got Lan sword fighting. I guess that's fine. Looks like he's doing a kata or something like that, which it's not a terrible interpretation of what we see the sword training in the books. And then we have Nynaeve sword training, which is interesting for two reasons. So one, Nynaeve, to my knowledge, comment down below if I'm wrong here, Nynaeve never picks up a sword the entirety of the series. So that's interesting. I'm not sure who would have read Nynaeve's character and thought that Nynaeve swinging a sword around was part of her story. But more importantly, Nynaeve actually, Nynaeve actually has a lot of disdain for men who carry swords, men who use swords, really violence in general. Her character and arc is that of a healer, and you see actually when she still has a block, which is not something that I think we see in the show. She doesn't seem to have a block in the show, but when she does have a block in the books, the way she often talks herself up into the anger that she needs in order to be able to channel is by complaining, because it's typically to heal someone. It's sitting there and complaining and getting herself angry about stupid men and their swords and stabbing each other and all of this stuff, and nobody has a right to be violent and do these things. So her training with a sword and all that is it's really a strange decision there. The other thing here is she's wearing a novice dress because there's no banded sort of, the rainbow, if you want to call it a rainbow, which it isn't a rainbow, but the show makes it one. The banded dress of an accepted is not present there. So I guess she's a novice, which would be an interesting step again for Nynaeve's character, who spends functionally no time as a novice in the stories. And then we have these two people with a sword that's fighting against her. So this guy behind her would have straight killed her. That dude in the back of her, though, did like a big spinny spin thing, which is terrible Hollywood fighting. Got it. But that's just straight up slashing at her exposed, unprotected back. That's a move that even Rings of Power didn't have the balls to do with Galadriel's fight, because they're like, that'd look ridiculous. They made the person behind Galadriel just sort of stand still for like 5 seconds and then move forward when Galadriel turned around, but they forgot to frame it properly so you see it. This one, though, man, even in a quick cut, you can see, why is that guy behind her not just hitting her with his sword? I don't know. Again, Shadiversity is going to do breakdowns of this stuff. If anyone's going to do a breakdown, I will just say the guy in the back should have absolutely, just got her right there. I don't understand what this scene could possibly be, so it's hard to sort of contextualize it within the books. Again, Nynaeve never picks up a sword. So yeah, I mean, contrasting Nynaeve doing this, fighting conceivably two men here with a sword. She's killed a man. She's killed a Trolloc. She's held a Trolloc dagger / human short sword to Lan's throat in this show. So basically, Nynaeve is like a warrior princess in this show, versus the healer Wisdom, the books. Speaking of women carrying knives and swords, here's Moraine with a large dagger. Again, no context. Yeah, okay, so from the very top, slightly insectoid, right? Like if you're looking at it, it has the sort of segmented back, maybe of like I said, like a scarab beetle. I don't think this would have been what most people were thinking of with the armor. It looks strangely evil as well. Like, there's one thing to have armor look scary and intimidating, But I think so much of what we see of these people, it looks evil. Like it's, skulls with spikes on them and stuff like that. And it's strange because that's not the flavor of the return, right? Um, they view themselves as the good guys. We're the liberators. It's setting them up to be like monstrous and like evil looking versus just a intimidating sort of look. I wouldn't be surprised if that's like a Sojin or something behind him. It's just hilarious. Uh, it looks like that one character from Naruto. This guy in the middle appears to have those ridiculous long nails. If that's Turok, which, man, was I right in saying how absolutely ridiculous this scene is gonna look? Man, talk about a disappointing change. So the scene goes from, sort of the cultured High Lord who's into poetry and beautiful things and all this stuff is a intelligent and cultured man who also is a blade master, right? So showing the finer points, I guess, of the Sanshan culture, to just a guy in armor with Wolverine claws. Okay, so Egwene in probably a novice dress. Other than him continue to look terrible. I know there were people saying that, season 2 is going to have better budget for the stuff because the budget's the same, but they baked in a lot of the production company costs into season 1. This looks worse, to be honest. Okay, I guess we get more scenes of Moraine bathing. I think this means that she's the most washed of any character in the show. This is at least the 3rd time that we see her bathing. Actually, 4th time. There you go. More men in the show being subjected to the gaze of the audience. Interesting that this only goes one way. Yeah, there's nothing in the books that could possibly be interpreted to be this. Those shackles don't look like prisoner shackles. They look like bondage gear. Like, man, that looks like one of the showrunners probably just brought his stuff to work to pocket the difference in the the set design. Oh, hey, look, Perrin's got his mouth open. Crazy. It looks like he could be shocked by what he's seeing, or he could just be doing Perrin face. It's who knows at this point. Okay, somebody fighting the Shanshan. Oh, that's Uno. That's clearly the strange man bun. Not a top knot for some reason. Man bun. Yeah, that's got to be the eye patch. Behind him looks like some other people also fighting. So I guess she stole Loyal's wig, is maybe what we're getting here. For those of you who haven't seen it, Robert Jordan was very clear, explicit in written form, as well as answers and Q&As, that the Aes Sedai wear dresses, not robes. It's unfortunate that the showrunners decided to go against the literal and explicit wishes and descriptions of the author with no real reason. Like, last time I checked, there's nothing wrong with women wearing dresses. This is better, right? The last one looked completely ridiculous. This one has the problem, though, of there not being any stole, whereas the last time the stole was sort of part of the ensemble and it had the colors wrong. So, I don't know, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, maybe? So here's Ishmael. He's finishing up that statement that's been playing slowly in the background with my pauses. So he's basically saying the only way to stop all the suffering is to stop the wheel from turning, which is true to form for Ishmael. It's weird that we got that realization from the, Dana the Dark Friend discount sort of Tumblr barmaid. It's like, okay, so one of the wisest sort of chief philosophers from the Age of Legends came up with this theory, but also random bartender. I guess that's good. Yeah. And even with the color and the brightness boosted, it's hard to tell what really is happening here other than fighting. I really hope the show decides to lighten some of these scenes in post production. Maybe it's a problem within the show and with modern sort of filmmaking generally. It's just too scenes are just too damn dark, guys. Like, people want to be able to watch this. All right, so there's Egwene and no ball gag. That's nice. I guess the thing on her shoulders there and around her neck is supposed to be the Idam collar. So we did see this collar in season 1. This one looks better than the one we saw in season 1. So the design is the same, but the one that we saw in season 1 had a much more fabric look to it. So it moved in a way that it didn't really look like it was certainly metal. It looked like it was maybe at most leather that was kind of lacquered gold, because it bended and flexed with the user or the wearer. This one looks more metal, looks kind of bulkier, but honestly, that just contributes to the problem. Again, spoilers for the Great Hunt here. She gets captured originally because a woman kind of walks up and just like before she can really recognize what's happening, just takes this small little bracelet or small necklace and just kind of closes it around her neck. Could you imagine someone fitting you for like a little half breastplate? I'm not sure how any woman gets collared without being knocked unconscious with this being the setup. And then obviously the implication of there not being a chain, removes sort of an achievement that happens later for a different character. Not going to go into any spoilers on that stuff. And also the problem of like, imagine trying to hide the fact that someone is wearing this. Or the other side worn by the Suldam appears to be like like a forearm bracer from what we saw in season 1. So, man, this is not subtle. And without spoilers, I think you guys will probably understand the issues there. Okay, so Children of the Light, the White Cloaks. Glad to see them with an actual sunburst, right? The flaring sun, something that was completely missing, as well as like weapons and armor. Really, well, armor, I suppose, in season 1. That appears to be Shan-Chan guarding a gate in the distance. If this is supposed to be sort of the Charge of the Light Brigade kind of thing that we see in the books, they would have obviously closed the gate as soon as this group was even on the horizon. The horses still seem to have those peculiar little sort of face masks, which are not what would be a fly mask. So it's not something to keep flies out of the horse's eyes and things like that, which you often have on horses. And is also not seemingly armor. The horses don't have any barding. That at least they didn't in season 1. They don't appear to from this shot, although it could just be on their chests. And it appeared to have been cloth or maybe thin leather or something like that. So it wouldn't really be particularly useful as armor for the horse's face anyway, although a barded horse did have face armor. So who knows? It's a piece of horse armor, I guess. All right, so that has to be a fade, right? The Thakandar blade. Again, too quick to get any context from these. More of the Shan-Chan sort of army kind of going through here. These swords appear to have kind of a katana-like guard, although the blade itself is straight. And almost appears to be double-edged, despite the point, which you normally only find on a single-edged sword, generally speaking. These ones have some different colors. They don't have the same head thing. Maybe they're trying to distinguish the Death Watch guard, that sort of setup. Although, yeah, the Death Watch guard really should be in the same armor as everyone else. It should just be, black and green. It's sort of the lacquer. Okay, and that's it, guys. So go on here to watch the sort of Wheel of Time kind of close out. There's no other commentary or anything else. So I'm gonna cut it off here and just say, if you want to see more Wheel of Time content, please like, share, subscribe. You guys and your comments, your subscriptions, your support means a lot to us, so we appreciate it. And yeah, I'm gonna close this out before we go on any longer. It's already embarrassing how bad this thing was in terms of the amount of content you just really need to talk through and break down. So without further ado, thanks for watching, thanks for the support, and walk in the light.